23 years ago, the Miller family vanished from their home, leaving only whispers of fear and unanswered questions. The shadows that haunted them seemed more than superstition, twisting the truth into silence and dread. But when Jessica and her brother Timmy unearthed Lillian's journal, a locket, and the hidden box beneath the floor, the past refused to stay buried. And just listen to how shocking the twist in this drama turned out to be, and why justice ultimately prevailed. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows on the freshly mowed lawn of the Collins' new house. Jessica Collins stood at the edge of the property, a bittersweet feeling settling in her chest. She was excited about the change, about leaving the cramped apartment behind for the sprawling space of this old two-story house. Yet there was an unmistakable chill in the air, a whisper of something unsettling that had her glancing over her shoulder every few moments. "Jess, come help us with the boxes." Her younger brother, Timmy, called from inside. His voice was filled with the enthusiasm of a child who believed every corner of their new home held a secret adventure. "Coming!" she shouted back, shaking off the unease. Inside, her parents were already busy unpacking, their faces a mixture of exhaustion and excitement. "Mom, where do you want this?" Jessica asked, holding a large cardboard box filled with kitchen essentials. "Just put it on the counter for now. We can sort it later," her mother Sarah replied, her voice tinged with the stress of moving. As the day wore on, the family worked tirelessly, each member contributing to the transformation of their new abode. It was a spacious home, filled with the character of its age. Dark wooden floors creaked underfoot, and the scent of freshly painted walls mingled with dust motes dancing in the sunlight. Later that evening, as dusk fell and the sky turned a deep indigo, Jessica wandered into the backyard. The space was wild and overgrown, a stark contrast to the manicured lawns of their old neighborhood. She could hear the chorus of crickets and the distant hoot of an owl. There was a certain beauty in the untamed chaos, yet it felt haunted, as if the very earth beneath her feet held secrets. "Hey, Jess, look what I found!" Timmy shouted, darting toward her, his face lit up with excitement. He held a rusted key, its edges worn and corroded. "Where did you get that?" Jessica asked, intrigued. "It was in the shed," Timmy replied, grinning widely. "I think it might open something cool." Jessica smiled back but felt a shiver run down her spine. "Let's not get too carried away. It's probably just an old key for an old lock." Timmy's eyes sparkled with mischief. "Come on, what if it opens a treasure chest or something?" Their laughter echoed into the evening, but Jessica couldn't shake the feeling that the house held more than just memories. The next day, while the family continued to unpack, Jessica decided to explore the attic. Climbing the creaky stairs, she felt a mixture of excitement and fear. The attic was dark and dusty, filled with old furniture and boxes that hadn't been touched in years. As she rummaged through the clutter, she stumbled upon an old trunk, its leather cracked and faded. Her heart raced as she knelt beside it, brushing away the dust. The trunk was locked, and her mind raced back to the key Timmy had found. Could it possibly fit? "Timmy," she called, her voice echoing in the confined space. He appeared moments later, breathless with curiosity. "What's up?" "I think I found something," she said, pulling the trunk closer to her. "Do you think that key you found would fit?" "Let's try," Timmy exclaimed, his excitement palpable. As he inserted the key into the lock, Jessica held her breath. The key turned with a satisfying click, and the trunk creaked open. Inside, they found a collection of dusty old books, yellowed with age in a small, ornate box. "What's this?" Timmy asked, holding the box up. Jessica reached for it, her fingers trembling as she opened it. Inside lay a delicate silver locket, its surface intricately engraved with a design she didn't recognize. "Wow, it's beautiful," Jessica breathed, captivated by the locket's charm. Suddenly, her phone buzzed in her pocket, jolting her back to reality. It was a message from her mother. Asterisk Jessica, come downstairs. We need to talk. Asterisk. "Let's go downstairs," she said, sliding the locket back into the box and closing the trunk. When they reached this living room, their parents were sitting on the couch, their expressions serious. Jessica and Timmy exchanged worried glances as they took their seats. "What's wrong?" Jessica asked, her heart racing. "Your father and I have something we need to tell you," Sarah began, her voice shaky. "We weren't completely honest about this house." "What do you mean?" Timmy asked, tilting his head. There's a history here, something we found out after we agreed to buy it, their father Mark added, his brows furrowed. Jessica felt a knot tighten in her stomach. What kind of history? Mark took a deep breath, his voice barely above a whisper. This house belonged to the Miller family. They vanished without a trace 23 years ago. What? Jessica's voice was barely a whisper. It's true, Sarah confirmed. The police investigated, but they never found out what happened to them. The case went cold. Jessica felt a wave of disbelief wash over her. But why would you buy a house with such a dark past? We didn't know until after we signed the papers, Mark explained. We thought it was a good deal, a chance for a fresh start. We thought the past wouldn't follow us. But it's here, Jessica said, her heart racing. And now we found something. Timmy looked at her, his eyes wide. The key, the trunk, what if it was theirs? The room fell silent as the weight of their discovery settled in. Jessica's mind raced with a mixture of intrigue and fear. What had happened to the Millers? And what secrets did their house still hold? As night fell, the Collins family gathered around the kitchen table, the locket and the trunk at the center, a haunting reminder of the past. The air was thick with tension, the shadows growing longer as they contemplated the mysteries that lay ahead. The secrets of the house were just beginning to unravel, and Jessica could feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins, an intoxicating mix of curiosity and dread. Little did they know, the key to understanding the Millers' fate lay just within reach, waiting to be discovered. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm gold hue over the Collins' new home. Shadows stretched across the yard, creeping into the corners of the house where the fading light barely reached. Jessica stood in the attic, the musty smell of aged wood and forgotten memories swirling around her. She clutched the delicate silver locket tightly, its cool surface a stark contrast to the heat of her palm. Jess, look at this! Timmy's voice echoed from the far side of the attic, breaking her reverie. She turned to see him kneeling beside an old trunk, its lid barely ajar. He was tugging at a faded leather book, its cover cracked and worn. Be careful, Timmy. We don't know what's in there, she cautioned, her heart racing with both intrigue and anxiety. The trunk seemed to beckon them, a treasure chest filled with secrets of the past. Come on, it's just an old book. I want to see what it says. His enthusiasm was infectious, but Jessica couldn't shake the feeling that they were treading on dangerous ground. Reluctantly, she approached him, glancing over his shoulder. The book's title was barely legible, the gold lettering dulled by time. What if it's something important? She whispered, a shiver crawling down her spine. Like what? Ghost stories. Timmy laughed, his innocence brightening the shadowy attic. Maybe it'll tell us about the Millers. Jessica's stomach twisted at the mention of the family who had vanished. She could still hear her mother's voice, laced with concern and urgency, explaining the mysterious circumstances surrounding their disappearance. It felt like a dark cloud looming over their new beginning. Okay, open it, she relented, feeling a mix of trepidation and curiosity. Timmy's eyes sparkled with excitement as he pried the book open. Dust motes danced in the last rays of sunlight, swirling around them like tiny stars. The pages were yellowed, fragile to the touch, and the handwriting was elegant yet difficult to read, as if it had been penned long ago by someone with a story to tell. Can you read it? Timmy asked, leaning closer, his breath warm against her arm. Jessica squinted at the first few lines. It looks like a journal, maybe. Someone named Lillian. She traced her fingers along the faded ink, her heart pounding. It talks about everyday life, family gatherings, meals, and her voice trailed off as she found a passage that sent a chill through her. What? Timmy asked, his eyes wide with anticipation. Listen to this, Jessica said, her voice barely above a whisper. Lillian writes about strange noises at night and shadows moving in the corners of her vision. She seems scared. Timmy's face fell. That's creepy. Do you think that's why they disappeared? Before Jessica could answer, the attic door creaked open, and their mother's voice rang through the stillness. You two better not be up to mischief. Dinner's almost ready, and I need you both down here. Just a minute, Mom, Timmy called back. He shot Jessica a conspiratorial grin. We can keep reading after dinner, right? Yeah, but let's keep this between us for now, she replied, her mind racing. The last thing she wanted was to alarm her mother, who was already on edge about the move. They hurried down the narrow staircase, the wood groaning beneath their feet as if the house itself were sighing. The aroma of roasted chicken wafted from the kitchen, mingling with the earthy scent of the old house. Jessica felt a strange comfort in the smell, but it did little to ease the tension coiling in her gut. In the kitchen, their father was setting the table, his brow furrowed in concentration. He looked up and smiled warmly at his children. "How's the unpacking going? Finding anything interesting?" Jessica exchanged a glance with Timmy, who was already diving into a story about the trunk and the dusty books. Mark listened intently, nodding along as Timmy animatedly recounted their discovery. Jessica felt a pang of guilt. Should they tell him about Lillian's journal? As much as she wanted to share the excitement, the shadows of the past loomed too large. "Just some old stuff," she said, trying to sound casual. "Nothing too interesting." Her father raised an eyebrow but said nothing further, sensing perhaps that there was more to the story than met the eye. He turned back to the kitchen counter, the clattering of dishes punctuating an uncomfortable silence. Later, as they sat around the table, the atmosphere was deceptively cozy. The walls, adorned with faded photographs and peeling wallpaper, seemed to listen in on their conversation. They shared mundane stories of their new town, but Jessica couldn't shake the feeling that they were merely skimming the surface of something much deeper. "Are we going to unpack everything by tomorrow?" Timmy asked between bites, his mouth full of mashed potatoes. "Slow and steady," Sarah replied, her eyes weary but warm. "We'll get there. This isn't a race." Jessica's heart ached at the sight of her mother, trying to keep the family together while wrestling with her own fears. She wished she could ease the burden of the past that hung over them like a heavy shroud. "Do you think the Miller's house is haunted?" Timmy piped up, his eyes wide with innocent curiosity. "Timmy!" Jessica shot him a warning glance. Their mother's face paled slightly, and Mark shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Just stories," Mark said, trying to lighten the mood. "No reason to believe any of it. Just old tales meant to scare kids." "But what if it's true?" Timmy pressed, undeterred. "Enough of that, buddy," Sarah interjected firmly, her voice tinged with a protective edge. "Let's focus on making our own memories in this house, okay?" Jessica felt a pang of disappointment, a longing to explore the depths of the mystery that surrounded them. She wanted to uncover the truth about the Millers and what had happened to them, but she also didn't want to frighten her family further. After dinner, Jessica sought refuge in the attic, feeling drawn back to the trunk and the journal. She retrieved the book and settled into a corner, the dim light filtering through the small window casting long shadows across the floor. The journal's pages crackled as she turned them, each one revealing snippets of Lillian's life. There were entries about small joys, a new dress, a sunny day spent in the garden, but they gradually shifted toward darker reflections. Lillian wrote about feeling watched, of hearing whispers in the night that made her skin crawl. Jessica's breath caught in her throat as she read the last entry. "I feel like something is coming. I can't shake the feeling that we're being pulled into a darkness we can't escape. If you find this journal, know that I love my family and would do anything to protect them." The weight of the words bore down on Jessica, and she felt an unsettling connection to the girl who had penned them. She was just a child like her, living in a house full of secrets. "Jess," Timmy's voice broke through her thoughts, and she quickly closed the journal, hiding it behind her back. "Yeah, Mom and Dad are calling us to help with the boxes downstairs." He paused, his expression earnest. "Can we keep reading later? I want to know what happened to Lillian." Jessica hesitated. "Maybe, but we should be careful. I don't want to scare Mom." Timmy nodded, his eyes wide with excitement and trepidation. "Okay, but I want to know what happened. It's like a mystery." As they descended the stairs together, Jessica felt a flicker of determination ignite within her. This mystery was their history now, intertwined with their own lives in this old house. Whatever secrets lay buried in the walls, she was resolved to uncover them. It wouldn't just be for her own sake. It would be for Timmy, for her parents, and for Lillian Miller, who had written her fears on fragile pages, waiting for someone to listen. The Collins family might have moved in seeking a fresh start, but now they were trapped in a web of the past, and Jessica was ready to untangle it. Little did they know, the key Timmy had found was just the beginning of their journey into the heart of the mystery that had haunted the Millers, and now perhaps the Collins as well. The attic felt heavier that evening, the air thick with secrets waiting to be unveiled. Jessica sat cross-legged on the floor, the journal lying open in her lap, while Timmy peeked over her shoulder, his curious eyes wide with wonder. The flickering light from the single bulb above them cast moving shadows that danced across the dusty floorboards, an eerie backdrop to their clandestine exploration. "Can we read more?" Timmy asked, his voice a hushed whisper, as if the very act of speaking might summon the ghost of the Millers. Jessica nodded, her heart racing. "Yeah, but we have to be quiet. We don't want Mom or Dad to find us up here." She turned the fragile pages carefully, the scent of aged paper wafting into the air, mingling with the mustiness that enveloped the attic. Each word felt like a breadcrumb leading deeper into the mystery. Lillian's handwriting was elegant yet frantic, an unsettling contrast that hinted at the turmoil brewing beneath the surface. Jessica read aloud softly, her voice barely penetrated the stillness. September 24th, 1999. I don't know how much longer I can keep writing. Mom and Dad say they need to leave, but I don't know where. They keep talking about the shadows, how they're closing in on us. I can feel them too. Timmy shivered, drawing closer to Jessica. Shadows. What kind of shadows? Jessica frowned, feeling a chill creep down her spine. I don't know, but it sounds like they were scared of something. As she turned the page, a small folded piece of paper slipped out, fluttering to the floor like a fallen leaf. Timmy rushed to pick it up, his excitement palpable. "What's this?" he asked, unfolding it with nimble fingers. Jessica's breath caught in her throat. It was a drawing, an intricate sketch of the house, but the depiction was dark and twisted. Shadows loomed larger than the house itself, and in the corner, a figure stood, shrouded in black. That looks like the house," she murmured, her heart pounding. "But what's that?" Timmy squinted at the figure. "It's creepy. Do you think it's a ghost?" "Maybe," Jessica replied, her voice barely above a whisper, the weight of the drawing settling heavily on her mind. "Or maybe it's something worse." A rustling sound echoed from below, yanking them back to reality. Jessica's pulse quickened. "We should go. Now!" Timmy nodded, his previous enthusiasm overshadowed by a sudden sense of urgency. As they carefully tucked the journal and the drawing back into the trunk, Jessica felt a strange mixture of fear and anticipation. What had Lillian and her family experienced in this house? Did it have anything to do with their own family? They crept down the rickety stairs, their footsteps muffled against the worn carpet. As they reached the bottom, they exchanged a worried glance, then took a deep breath before stepping into the living room. Sarah was in the kitchen, her back turned as she stirred a pot on the stove. Mark was sitting at the dining table, a newspaper spread out before him, lines of concern etched across his forehead. Jessica caught a glimpse of the bold headline. Mysterious disappearances in small towns, a growing concern. "Dinner's almost ready," Sarah called over her shoulder, trying to inject some cheer into the air. "How was your adventure in the attic?" Jessica hesitated, the weight of her discoveries pressing down on her. "Oh, just exploring," she replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Mark glanced up, brow furrowing. "Make sure you don't stay up there too long. You never know what you might find." Jessica exchanged a knowing look with Timmy, who looked equally troubled. "Yeah, we'll be careful," she said, trying to sound casual. As they took their seats at the table, the atmosphere felt charged, thick with unspoken fears. Sarah placed a bowl of steaming soup in front of each of them, the warmth contrasting sharply with the chill that lingered in Jessica's heart. "Did you finish unpacking?" Mark asked, stirring his soup absent-mindedly. "Almost," Sarah replied, her voice tinged with exhaustion. "Just a few more boxes to go. I want to make this place feel like home." Jessica felt a pang of empathy for her mother, who seemed to be carrying the weight of their entire family on her shoulders. "It will take time, Mom," she reassured her, but uncertainty gnawed at her insides. Would they ever feel at home in a place shadowed by the Millers' past? After dinner, the family settled into the living room, the flickering light of the fireplace casting a warm glow against the walls. Timmy was animated, recounting the adventures of their attic exploration, embellishing details with wild gestures. Jessica listened, a small smile creeping onto her face, grateful for his innocence, even as her mind whirled with questions. "Do you think the Millers had any pets?" Timmy asked suddenly, eyes glinting with excitement. "Timmy, I don't think that's the most pressing question right now," Jessica replied, shaking her head, though she couldn't help but smile at his enthusiasm. "Why not? They could have had a cat or a dog. Maybe they vanished because their pet ran away," he insisted, eyes wide with wonder. Mark chuckled, a genuine sound that momentarily broke the tension. "You and your pets, buddy, but really we should focus on settling in before we start worrying about ghosts and disappearing families." Jessica's stomach twisted. Ghosts felt too close for comfort, and she wasn't about to let her father's casual dismissal soothe her fraying nerves. She glanced at the journal tucked away in her bag, the weight of its secrets heavy on her conscience. The evening wore on, filled with the warmth of family, but shadowed by the knowledge of what lay beyond their cozy bubble. When it was finally time for bed, Jessica trudged up the stairs, fatigue settling in her bones. She paused at the attic door, glancing back at Timmy, who had fallen asleep on the couch. "Just a quick look," she whispered to herself, her curiosity overpowering her caution. The attic loomed above her, the door ajar as if beckoning her inside. She pushed it open slowly, the creak echoing like a whisper of the past. Inside, the air felt electric, charged with the remnants of the stories that had unfolded within those walls. Jessica turned on the light, illuminating the space filled with dust motes swirling in the air. She approached the trunk again, heart racing with anticipation and anxiety. The journal still lay open, its pages waiting for her to uncover further secrets. She took a deep breath, her fingers trembling as she reached for the journal. The words blurred momentarily as she read Lillian's last entry. "They're coming for us. I can hear them at night whispering my name. I can't stay here any longer." Jessica felt a shiver run down her spine. "Who?" she whispered into the stillness, the question lingering like a haunting echo. She flipped through the pages, desperate for more answers, when suddenly a soft thump reverberated from the back of the attic, drawing her attention. With trepidation, she turned toward the sound, her heart pounding in her chest. Shadows danced across the walls, the light flickering as if in response to her rising fear. "Timmy," she called softly, but the silence that followed only heightened her unease. She took a cautious step toward the source of the sound, her senses heightened. As she approached the far corner of the attic, she noticed a small, ornate box half hidden beneath a pile of old blankets. It looked strangely out of place in the dust-ridden world around her. Jessica's breath caught in her throat as she knelt down, heart racing with equal parts dread and excitement. With trembling hands, she brushed away the dust and debris, revealing intricate carvings on the surface. A delicate keyhole glinted in the light, taunting her with the promise of secrets still hidden away. "What are you hiding?" she murmured, her fingers hovering over the box. A sense of urgency surged within her. This could be the key to uncovering the Miller's fate. As she reached for the clasp, a sudden gust of wind rattled through the attic, causing the light to flicker violently. Jessica jumped back, her heart racing. She felt the weight of the house's history pressing down on her, and she realized that the answers she sought were not just about the Millers. They were intertwined with her own family's journey as well. "Maybe I should wait," she whispered to herself, wrestling with her impulse to open the box. But as she looked back at the journal and the drawing, she knew she couldn't ignore the call of the past any longer. Resolute, she took a deep breath, ready to confront whatever lay within. Jessica stood in the dim light of the attic, her heart racing as she stared at the ornate box resting on the floorboards. The wood was smooth and polished, a stark contrast to the dust and decay surrounding it. Intricate carvings adorned its surface, depicting swirling vines and leaves that seemed to come alive in the flickering light of her flashlight. With a hesitant breath, she knelt beside it, the cool air wrapping around her like a shroud. "Jess, what did you find?" Timmy's voice echoed from the attic door, tinged with a mix of excitement and impatience. "Just something," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. She didn't want to alarm him, but a knot of unease twisted in her stomach. The box felt significant, as if it held more than mere trinkets. You should come see. Timmy bounded over, his face lit with curiosity. Wow, look at those designs. What do you think is inside? Jessica shrugged, her fingers brushing against the smooth surface. I don't know, but it's locked. She glanced at the delicate key she had found in the shed, its rusted edges catching the light. Maybe this key fits. Try it, Timmy urged, his eyes wide with anticipation. She could sense his excitement, a forceful reminder of the innocent joy that still existed within their family, despite the shadows looming over them. Jessica held the key up to the box's lock, her breath hitching in her throat. With a tentative turn, she felt the mechanism shift, the lock clicking open with a sound that reverberated through the silence like a tolling bell. She lifted the lid slowly, her pulse quickening as she revealed the contents inside. The box was filled with an assortment of items: old photographs, yellowed letters tied with fraying twine, and a small, delicate music box that looked like it had been untouched for years. A rush of memories flooded her mind, images of her grandmother's attic, where treasures had been hidden away, waiting to be discovered. But those memories felt distant now, overshadowed by the mystery of the Millers. What's that? Timmy pointed at the music box, his voice barely above a whisper, as if afraid to disturb the fragile air surrounding them. Jessica picked it up, feeling its weight in her hands. The lid was adorned with a painted scene of a woman dancing beneath a crescent moon, her dress flowing like water. It looks like a music box, she said, turning it over to find a small keyhole. But I don't have a key for it. Maybe it plays a song. Timmy's eyes sparkled, filled with a childlike wonder. Can you open it? Not yet. Jessica's heart sank a little. She didn't want to disappoint him, but the box felt more like a puzzle to solve than a toy. Let's look at the other things first. She carefully set the music box aside and dug deeper into the box, pulling out a stack of letters. Their edges were frayed and the ink had faded with time. As she unfolded the first one, the scent of aged paper wafted up, mingling with the musty air of the attic. Dear Lillian, she read aloud, her voice trembling slightly, I hope this letter finds you well. The shadows grow longer each day, and I fear for what they may bring. The children have been restless, and I hear whispers in the night. Timmy's eyes widened, and he leaned closer. What do you think she meant by shadows? I don't know. Jessica glanced around the attic, the shadows in the corners seeming to shift and sway. But it sounds like she was scared. Maybe they were just ghosts. Timmy giggled, but there was a hint of nervousness in his laughter. Maybe. Jessica couldn't shake the chill creeping up her spine. She continued reading, her heart sinking deeper with every line. I see them when the light fades, creeping along the walls. I feel their presence, heavy and suffocating. I fear that something is coming, Timmy, something that will take us away. The letter slipped from her fingers, fluttering to the floor like a dying leaf. She looked at Timmy, who was now staring at her with wide, innocent eyes. Do you think they left because they were scared? I don't know, Jessica admitted, her voice barely a whisper. The weight of the Miller's fears pressed heavily on her chest. She felt a mixture of dread and curiosity, a swirling storm of emotions as she picked up another letter, hoping for clarity. As she read on, the letters painted a picture of a family on the brink of collapse, plagued by fear and uncertainty. The final letter, dated just days before their disappearance, sent a shiver through her. I fear it is too late. The shadows have taken root in our home, and I can no longer protect my family. If anyone finds this, know that we loved deeply and were taken too soon. Jessica stopped reading, her thoughts racing. What if they didn't leave? What if they were taken? The idea felt too heavy, too dark to voice fully. Timmy's face paled. You mean like kidnapped? I don't know, she confessed, glancing around the attic again. Every creak of the old wood felt amplified in the tense silence. But their fear was real. I can feel it. Jess, I don't want to be scared, he said, his voice trembling slightly. I just want to play and explore. Jessica reached out to ruffle his hair, attempting to ease the tension that had settled like a fog between them. Me too, buddy. Let's not think about that right now. She forced a smile, though her heart weighed heavy. The shadows that Lillian had feared felt closer than ever, lurking just beyond the edges of the dim light. Can we open the music box now? Timmy asked, his exuberance returning. Let's see if we can find anything else first. Jessica nodded, trying to shake off the unsettling feeling. She rifled through the remaining contents of the box, pulling out more photographs, each telling a story of happier times. Picnics in the backyard, laughter around a table, a birthday party with a cake too large for a single family to eat. But even in the smiles, she could sense an underlying tension, a darkness that hovered just out of frame. Do you think we could find the Millers? Timmy asked, his voice suddenly serious. Like if we looked hard enough. I don't know, Jessica replied, the thought sending a chill down her spine. But I think we need to be careful. Whatever happened to them, it might still be here, like a ghost. Maybe. She bit her lip, feeling the weight of the unknown pressing down on her. But we have to stick together, okay? Promise me you'll stay close. I promise. Timmy grinned, the innocence of his excitement cutting through the tension like a beam of sunlight. Jessica smiled back, but her heart was still heavy with unanswered questions. She glanced back at the box, her mind swirling with thoughts of the Millers and their secrets. Let's take this stuff downstairs. Mom and Dad should see it too. As they carefully gathered the contents, Jessica felt an urgency building within her. The attic with its dust and shadows held more than just the remnants of a family lost. It was a doorway to the past, a puzzle waiting to be pieced together. And as they made their way down the creaking stairs, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that the house was alive with the stories it had yet to share. In the fading light of dusk, the sense of mystery deepened. Shadows danced along the walls, whispering secrets that only the silence could understand. Jessica clutched the letters tightly, her resolve hardening. They would uncover the truth, no matter how deep the shadows ran. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the dusty kitchen window, casting a warm glow that seemed to soften the edges of the shadows lingering in the corners. Jessica stood at the sink, absent-mindedly washing a stack of mismatched plates, while her thoughts drifted back to Lillian Miller's journal. Each word echoed in her mind, weaving a tapestry of fear and mystery that pulled her deeper into the house's secrets. Jess, come look at this. Timmy's voice shattered her reverie, filled with the kind of enthusiasm that only a 10-year-old could muster. He stood in the living room, pointing excitedly at the floor. Jessica dried her hands and walked toward him, her heart quickening with a mix of curiosity and concern. What is it? She asked, her voice laced with caution. I think there's something under the carpet, Timmy exclaimed, bouncing on his heels. Jessica knelt beside him and lifted the edge of the faded carpet, revealing a section of floorboards that looked newer than the rest. There was a small, rectangular patch, slightly raised, as if it had been placed there intentionally. It looks like a trap door, she murmured, her breath hitching in her throat. Do you think there's treasure? Timmy's eyes sparkled with excitement, oblivious to the unease that crept into Jessica's mind. Or more secrets, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The thought sent a shiver down her spine, and she hesitated. Maybe we should tell Mom and Dad first. Come on, Jess, just a peek. He tugged at her sleeve, his innocence pushing against her instinct to play it safe. With a reluctant nod, she pulled at the edges of the trap door, and it creaked open to reveal a dark, narrow space beneath. The scent of damp earth and something faintly metallic wafted up, unsettling Jessica further. Okay, but just for a second. Timmy leaned in, his small frame disappearing into the darkness. I can't see anything, he called back, disappointment threading his voice. Let me grab a flashlight, Jessica said, rising to her feet and sprinting to the kitchen. She rummaged through a box until her fingers brushed against the cool metal of a flashlight. She returned to the living room, where Timmy was still peering into the abyss, his face scrunched in concentration. Here, she said, switching on the beam. The light sliced through the darkness, illuminating a set of old wooden steps that descended into the unknown. Wow, she breathed, her heart racing with both dread and excitement. Let's go down, Timmy urged, his adventurous spirit bubbling to the surface. Wait, Jessica grabbed his arm, her voice firm. What if there's something dangerous down there? We should really think this through. Like what? Ghosts, Timmy scoffed, rolling his eyes. It'll be fine. I'll go first. Before she could protest further, he slipped down the steps, his small figure disappearing into the shadows. "Timmy," Jessica called, her voice betraying the anxiety rising within her. She took a deep breath and followed him down, the beam of the flashlight quivering as her hands shook. The air grew cooler as they descended, the wooden steps creaking beneath their weight. Finally, they reached the bottom, and Jessica scanned the dimly lit space. The walls were lined with what looked like old crates, their surfaces coated in a thick layer of dust. She stepped cautiously forward, the beam of her flashlight revealing cobwebs hanging like curtains from the rafters. "Look at all this stuff!" Timmy exclaimed, rummaging through an open crate filled with tarnished kitchen utensils and forgotten relics. "It's like a treasure chest." "More like a junkyard," Jessica muttered, her unease creeping back in. She aimed the flashlight toward the back of the room, where the shadows gathered like whispers. "Let's just see if we can find anything interesting, and then head back up." Timmy nodded, his excitement undeterred. He shuffled through the contents, pulling out a rusted kettle and a broken clock. "What do you think happened to the Millers?" he asked suddenly, glancing up at her with wide eyes. "I don't know," Jessica replied, her heart heavy with the weight of their unanswered questions. "But I think they were scared of something. Maybe they tried to hide down here. Like a secret base." Timmy grinned, his innocence shining through the gloom. "Yeah, but maybe it was more than that," she said, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "There might be a reason they disappeared." As they continued to explore, Jessica's flashlight flickered over something unusual in the corner of the room. It was a small locked box, partially hidden beneath a pile of old newspapers. Her heart raced as she knelt down to examine it. The box was ornate, covered in intricate carvings that resembled swirling vines and flowers. "Timmy, look at this," she called, her voice barely concealing her excitement. He rushed over, nearly tripping over his own feet as he knelt beside her. "What is it?" "It's locked," Jessica said, tracing the delicate patterns with her fingers. "But it looks important." "Maybe it's full of gold," Timmy exclaimed, his imagination running wild. "Or secrets," she added, her mind racing with possibilities. "I wonder if it belonged to Lillian." Timmy frowned. "Do you think we could open it?" Jessica stood, her mind racing through the possibilities. "We need a key," she said slowly, a thought igniting in her mind. "What if we find the key? We could unlock it and see what's inside." "Where do we look?" Timmy asked, his eyes shining with determination. "Maybe there's something upstairs," she proposed, recalling the locket and journal they had discovered earlier. Lillian might have left clues. With a shared nod, they made their way back up the steps, the air feeling heavier as they climbed. Once back in the living room, Jessica's thoughts swirled like leaves caught in an autumn wind. She glanced toward the attic, where shadows danced in the corners, beckoning her to return. "Let's check the trunk again," she suggested, her voice firm despite the fluttering in her stomach. Timmy followed closely behind as they ascended the creaky stairs once more. The attic was still untouched, the air thick with the scent of aged wood and dust. Jessica approached the trunk, her heart thudding in her chest as she opened it once more. The journal lay nestled among the books, its pages worn and delicate. "Remember what she wrote?" Jessica asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "About the shadows." "Yeah," Timmy replied, his brow furrowing in thought. "What if they're still here?" Jessica shivered at the thought. "Let's just focus on the key for now." As she flipped through the journal, her eyes caught sight of a passage that sent a chill down her spine. "I can hear them again. The shadows whisper my name. They want to take me away. I must find the key before it's too late." "What does that mean?" Timmy asked, his voice trembling slightly. "I don't know," Jessica said, her mind racing. "But maybe the key is hidden in this house. We just have to figure out where." As she skimmed through the pages, a folded paper slipped out, fluttering to the ground. Jessica picked it up, her heart racing as she unfolded it. It was a sketch, hastily drawn, depicting a place in the backyard, a large oak tree with sprawling roots and a swing hanging from a branch. "Look, Timmy," she exclaimed, holding the drawing up to the light. "I think Lillian might have hidden something here." "Let's go," Timmy shouted, already darting toward the door. Jessica followed, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. They burst outside, the sun shining brightly, casting long shadows across the wild backyard. The oak tree stood tall, its branches swaying gently in the breeze as if beckoning them closer. Timmy raced ahead, nearly tripping over roots as he reached the tree. This is it. This is where she drew. Jessica approached, her pulse quickening as she surveyed the area. We should look around the base, see if there's anything buried. They knelt together, brushing away the leaves and dirt. Time seemed to stretch as they dug, their fingers scraping against the rough earth. What if it's not here? Timmy asked, his voice tinged with disappointment. Just a little longer, Jessica urged, her heart racing. It has to be here. Then just as doubt began to creep in, her fingers brushed against something solid and cool. Wait, I think I found something, she cried, digging deeper until she uncovered a small metal box, rusty and weathered but unmistakably important. Open it! Open it! Timmy urged, his excitement bubbling over once again. Jessica carefully pried the lid open, her breath catching in her throat. Inside lay a small key, ornate and glimmering even in the muted light. It's beautiful, Timmy whispered, eyes wide with wonder. Jessica held it in her palm, feeling the weight of its significance. This must be it, the key to the locked box. As they stood there, the excitement of discovery mingling with the lingering mystery of the Millers, Jessica felt a sense of connection to Lillian, a thread linking their destinies. Let's go back inside, she said, determination flooding her veins. It's time to unlock the secrets of this house. Together they raced back into the house, the anticipation of revelation igniting a fire within them. As they reached the attic, Jessica could almost hear Lillian's whispers in the air, urging her onward. It was time to confront the shadows and unveil the truths that lay buried deep within the home they had come to claim as their own. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the dusty windows of the Collins family home, casting golden beams across the wooden floorboards. Jessica sat at the kitchen table, her fingers tracing the outline of the delicate silver locket they had found in the attic. It shimmered in the light, a reminder of the stories that lay locked away in the shadows. Timmy, oblivious to the weight of the locket's mystery, animatedly recounted his dreams of treasure hunts and hidden passageways, his enthusiasm infectious. Can you imagine, Jess? What if there's a treasure map hidden in that box? Timmy's bright eyes sparkled as he leaned closer, his excitement spilling over. Like pirates, or maybe the Millers left behind clues. Jessica smiled weakly, her mind far from his adventurous fantasies. Or maybe it's something much darker, she murmured, half to herself. The journal had left an unsettling impression on her, its pages filled with Lillian Miller's fears and warnings. She couldn't shake the gnawing feeling that whatever secrets lay in that locked box could change everything. Hey, are you listening? Timmy poked her arm, pulling her back to the moment. Let's go check it out today. We can find the key and finally open it. Yeah, sure, Jessica replied, forcing enthusiasm into her voice. She could hear her mother bustling in the background, the sound of dishes clanking, and the scent of pancakes wafting through the air. Sarah Collins emerged from the kitchen, a frown creasing her brow as she caught sight of Jessica's distracted expression. Jessica, are you all right? Her mother asked, concern lacing her voice. You've been quiet this morning. I'm fine, Mom, Jessica replied, though the words felt hollow. She wanted to confide in her mother about the journal, about the shadows creeping into her thoughts, but something held her back. She didn't want to burden Sarah with her fears, not when the day promised to be full of potential discoveries. Just make sure you and Timmy stay safe out there. The yard can be tricky, Sarah said, her tone shifting to one of protectiveness. And don't go into the attic alone, okay? Jessica nodded, her gaze drifting toward the window where the wild backyard lay, overgrown and tangled. It was a realm of both danger and possibility, a place where the past might reveal itself in unexpected ways. After breakfast, the siblings ventured outside, the sun now high in the sky, illuminating the vibrant greens and browns of their new home. Timmy raced ahead, his laughter echoing against the backdrop of rustling leaves and chirping birds. Jessica trailed behind, her heart beating in sync with the rhythm of nature, each step a reminder of the secrets buried beneath the surface. Let's start by looking for that key, Timmy called, glancing back at her with a grin. We can search the shed again. Do you really think it's there? Jessica asked, her curiosity piqued. The shed had felt like a treasure trove last time, filled with old tools and remnants of the past. What if they found something else? Something that could lead them to answers. Of course, Timmy declared, bounding toward the shed. It has to be. It's where we found the first key, right? As they reached the weathered door, Timmy flung it open, revealing a dim interior filled with shadows and the scent of damp wood. Sunlight filtered through the cracks, casting striped patterns on the floor. Jessica stepped inside, her heart racing with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Okay, let's look around, she said, kneeling beside an old toolbox. She rummaged through the rusted contents, her fingers brushing against cold metal and worn wood. If we can just find something that fits. Timmy, meanwhile, had climbed onto a stack of crates, his small form silhouetted against the light. I bet there's a secret compartment up here, he shouted, and Jessica couldn't help but grin at his unyielding spirit. Just be careful, she warned, glancing at the precarious pile. You don't want to fall. But before she could finish her sentence, Timmy's foot slipped. He gasped, and Jessica lunged forward, her heart in her throat. Timmy! He managed to catch himself, teetering for a moment before regaining his balance. See, I'm fine, he laughed, though the sound was shaky. Let's keep looking. Pushing aside her lingering worries, Jessica returned to her search, her eyes scanning the shadows for anything resembling a key. The longer they searched, the more she felt the weight of the house pressing in on her, a sense of urgency mixing with the air around them. After what felt like an eternity of rifling through forgotten tools and dusty boxes, Timmy squealed with delight, pulling something from the back of a shelf. Look, I found this. In his hand was a small, ornate key, its surface glinting dully in the light. It was unlike the first. They had a different shape, an intricate design etched into its metal. Do you think it's the one? Jessica asked, her excitement bubbling up despite her earlier reservations. Timmy nodded vigorously, his eyes wide with wonder. It has to be. Let's go check the box. The two raced back into the house, their footsteps echoing against the hardwood floors. They burst into the living room where the locked box still sat, shrouded in mystery. With trembling hands, Jessica inserted the key into the lock, her breath hitching as she turned it. The mechanism clicked, a sound that resonated deep within her. She glanced at Timmy, whose face was a mask of anticipation. Ready, she whispered, feeling a rush of adrenaline. Yeah, he replied, barely able to contain his excitement. With a swift motion, Jessica lifted the lid. Dust motes danced in the air, and a musty smell wafted up, as if the box had been sealed for far too long. Inside lay a collection of items, old photographs, letters, and a small, neatly folded piece of paper. As she reached for the paper, her fingers brushed against something cold and metallic. She pulled it out, a tarnished locket, identical to the one they had found earlier, but this one was engraved with the initials LM. Jessica's heart raced. Timmy, look at this, she exclaimed, holding up the locket. It's just like the other one. Timmy leaned closer, his eyes wide. Maybe it belonged to Lillian. Swallowing hard, Jessica carefully unfolded the piece of paper. The faded handwriting was delicate, each word whispering secrets of the past. To whoever finds this, she began aloud, her voice trembling. If you are reading this, then you must understand the danger that lurks within these walls. The shadows are not just memories. They are alive. Timmy's eyes widened as he listened. What does it mean, Jess? I don't know, she breathed, scanning the rest of the note. But it sounds like Lillian was trying to warn someone, maybe about what happened to her family. A chill ran down Jessica's spine. Each word felt heavy with foreboding, an echo of the unease that had settled in her heart since they moved in. Should we keep reading? Timmy asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Jessica hesitated, glancing around the dimly lit living room. The shadows seemed to shift and swirl, as if they were alive and watching. I think we should, she finally said, her curiosity outweighing her fear. As they delved deeper into Lillian's warning, the air around them thickened with tension, the past clawing its way to the forefront of their lives. The secrets of the Millers were waiting, lurking just beyond the threshold of their discovery, and Jessica felt that they were on the brink of something monumental, something that could change everything they thought they knew about their home and the family that had vanished. And like a shadow creeping across the floor, the house seemed to hold its breath, waiting for them to uncover its deepest, darkest truths.